We're getting
Are
ready
we
here.
live?
We're now officially live.
Oh,
What's up, everyone? We got a fun show tonight. We got a
we do.
very fun show
We do.
tonight. But before we get to our fun show, you guys know the deal. Let's get ready here.
New graphics.
All right, Tommy. What's up? What's up? You there? Turn
I
the
am
camera
here.
on. Turn the camera on, buddy. Guys,
Yeah, no, I
we got a fun light years episode tonight. Pretty excited about this one. So excited that I'm actually turn on my camera and not talk through my AirPods. How does that sound for everyone? All right, let me get this party going pretty quickly. As soon as Tommy gets back here, you're gonna lose him. Maybe we're gonna lose him. Is Tommy alive? Tommy's been in Vegas too many days in a row. Debatable if he is alive. But, I've potted with dead people before, so it's okay. It's not that big a deal. There he is.
I'm trying to make the camera work, but
Oh,
it's not coming in.
It was working just fine a minute ago.
Dude, I know. I know what's going on.
Just fine 1 minute ago. And now we got technical difficulties here. See if we can turn your camera
Don't we
on.
always?
We'll get this party going. We got a special guest with us today. I'm pretty excited about this one. Guys, presented by Prize Picks. Get $50 in lineups when you play your first $5 and use the promo code WELCOME one and all to Light Years. Sam Spandiari here. We were recording Thursday evening after the Warriors-Blazers second preseason game. I got Tommy in with me, although he's having some technical difficulties, but I'm sure they'll be resolved. And I'm excited about this. We got a special guest. Coming through today. Our guy from Hoops Tonight, Jason Timpf. Jason's going to be joining us any minute now. Should have a fun one here. I'm starting to get that. I'm officially getting that preseason, not the preseason, the itch for the regular season to start. I don't know if you guys feel the same way as me, but I'm officially feeling like it's time. Jason,
what's up, dude? What's Tommy doing, man?
Dude, I'm trying to figure it out. The Vegas Wi-Fi is screwing me right now.
Yeah.
I'm gonna
it's
figure
okay.
it out.
We can hear you. I'm gonna put you in a little window right now, so it's okay. People can just see me and Jason. It'll be okay. We can hear your voice. You're like the voice of God or the voice of Satan.
Love that.
However you want to put it.
Both, honestly.
The narrator in the background, Tommy. Just jut in when one of us goes off the rails.
Oh, Jason, how you been? Are you with me? Like this week, somewhere around Tuesday, Wednesday this week, I'm like, oh damn, we're less than 2 weeks away from the NBA coming back. And I'm ready for it. I feel like September is a really long, drawn out period where I'm like, well, I can't get too excited. I got to be realistic. It's 6-8 weeks out. Now it's like, it's time.
I know it's here because I'm already annoyed about the Lakers injury reports. That's how I know that it's actually going down. I lost most of my summer to a move up to Denver, which ended up like going really smoothly until it didn't, which I told you about. I
Yeah.
ended up blowing a tire, pulling a trailer up through Albuquerque. And I'm not exaggerating. That shit happened in rush hour traffic at the Interstate 25, Interstate 40 junction. And pulling a big trailer, you can't just drag a bum tire. Like I was literally like throwing up smoke. Like that was such a disaster, but we made it. I'm loving it up here. I grew up in Tucson, Arizona, so getting out of the heat has been nice. But then again, it's like we've gone from what is supposed to be my downtime, my slow season, to moving to now we're just jumping right back into it. But at the same time, I'm super excited because like I feel like this is a particularly interesting year for the league and there's a bunch of super interesting young players. Did you happen to catch the Dallas Mavericks first game?
I saw part of it. Yeah.
Yeah, like that's a super interesting new team. You're like watching Ace Bailey coming off ball screens, shooting and scoring. Who knows what the hell Wemby's going to do this year? Your team's basically brand new. My team's basically brand new. There's a bunch of interesting stuff to get into.
No, it's definitely. I feel like there's a lot of optimism for, let's say, 20 teams in the league right now, and obviously a lot of that's going to get crushed once the regular season starts. But I don't know. I'm feeling pretty good about the Warriors. I'm gonna be honest with you. The summer was annoying. The Kuminga shit was annoying as hell. Through no fault of any one individual, although I'll blame the Warriors for it. It was just annoying having to deal with it. Now we've moved beyond it. I'm excited. I feel sneakily optimistic about this team, but not as optimistic as ESPN. I don't know if you saw this today.
I did. What in the world are they going off of there? First of all, I go to watch the game from last night, and I'm sure you noticed this when you were watching too. But the Warriors, like literally, it was the most preseason Warriors effort
Yeah.
that I've seen in a long time. Just getting run in transition every time up the floor, no attempt to contain the ball at all. And it's just difficult to evaluate anybody at this point in time. But at the same time, you see the stuff that works, right? Like
Sure.
you see Horford and Jimmy switch a little two-man game, and all of a sudden Denny Avdija is throwing the ball out of bounds because he doesn't know what to do. Or you see, Horford drive a closeout and drop the ball off for an easy layup for Moody that he toasts. But you can see, like, oh, we haven't had a big who can really drive and kick like that can pump fake at the three-point line and make someone jump out of their shoes the way that Horford can. You could see, like, the little things that should work. Moody's jump shot looks great. There's all this kind of stuff, but, like, I still view them firmly in that second tier in the West. And I just don't see any team in that tier getting up over like 52, 53 wins.
Yeah, it's interesting because I looked at this and I was like 56, bro. I'll be thrilled if they hit 50. And it's not because I don't think they can compete with the Thunder or let's throw the Nuggets in there, some of these teams. It's that I just think they're an older team. I think most of their main players are going to play closer to 60 games than 75 games. There's going to be some of those lulls in there. And, 2022 is kind of your best case scenario where you get out to a hot start. And then when the natural bumps and bruises happen to older guys, you've built that buffer. But you can never count on that. 56, though. So just for those who haven't seen it, ESPN has the Warriors number 2 seed with 56 wins. That really shocked me. I'm going to be honest with you. And I've thought about it, and it is a stat-based projection. So I'm going to make the case for you for why it could happen.
Let's hear it.
And I want you to process this and tell me your thoughts on it. So the case for the reason this could happen for the Warriors is they won 48 games last year, and they obviously were 23-8 post Jimmy. So post Jimmy, they wanted an elite clip. Now we can bake in the games missed thing, but like if you take that as your foundation and you add 2 players who objectively help teams win games, and Al Horford and De'Anthony Melton, you're talking about a team with a lot of winning players, a lot of players that stat projections love, a lot of analytic darling players. I mean, they're all good players. Let's be honest. Like Al Horford's a good player. De'Anthony Melton's a good player. And I guess the recipe for them to get above not just 50, but push into that mid 55, 60 win range is you're betting they're the 2014 Spurs. You're betting that they go 11 or 12 deep which allows them to load manage certain guys. And they have so much IQ and talent across the board. And they're so regimented with their system and the way that they play that they can just reel off wins in the regular season, even if Draymond sits a couple games, if Jimmy sits a couple games, if Steph, that one's gonna be tougher, if he sits a couple games, something that you knew they could not do pre-Jimmy Butler and pre-Al Horford. I'm not saying I buy it, but I think that is the logic to a projection like this.
So I agree with the general point that you're making with respect to the depth of basketball IQ on the roster. I've talked about this even dating back to last year, essentially as my case for why they should have made the Jimmy Butler trade, which is the organization has done a sneaky job of just finding high IQ discounted role players that can play rotation minutes out to like 13, 14 guys deep on the roster at various points in the season, right? Depending on how many injuries they're dealing with. But like the consistent issue has been that top end, like advantage creation, playmaking on both ends of the floor. And you just plug in Jimmy Butler, who's just this incredible playmaker on both ends of the floor. And all of a sudden those high IQ players further down on the roster are benefiting from it. I think where it gets a little trickier for me is the night to night West is just so brutal for older players. Like for instance, like early in the game, you see Jimmy Butler, he's squared up with Shaedon Sharpe. And Shaedon Sharpe just hits like a hezzy and goes to his left. And it's like, you can tell Jimmy's like, man, I don't feel like sliding like that at this point in the season. How many nights this year in like December, January, February, is Horford going to be like getting sealed by Klingon and just not feel like battling that night? Or Jimmy Butler's going to just, that's where I can see some regression relative to like the kind of ecosystem you're talking about. But then on the flip side of that, I look at this as a team that's probably going to be awesome at home because they have the depth of younger athletic legs at the end of their bench that are going to constantly play hard. And so that's why I kind of see, like, if you told me that they ended up with like the 4th or 5th seed, I wouldn't be stunned. But I would be absolutely stunned if they ended up all the way up at that 2nd seed. I just think it would require so many things to go right for them this year. What's up, Tommy?
What's up, boys? Good to join. There was some permissions
fashionably late.
Permissions issues with Microsoft Edge, so I had to go to Google Chrome. But
Microsoft products are not working that well. But enough about the Clippers investigation.
Anyway, I think the Warriors are the 2nd best team in the league. I really do.
Oh shit! Okay, let's hear it.
So OKC's obviously they have the crown, and they have so many good defenders that it's hard to bet against them, and a superstar alpha in Shea, who I didn't want to believe in, but in a series, I will still bet on Steph against Shea. I really will. Like, I think Shea is still too night to night where like his aggression like kind of wanes in a weird way. And I'll just bet on Steph's shot making. And at the end of the day, I'm just taking Steph and Dre and Jimmy over anybody. Like,
let me ask you a question.
I'm not saying they're going to end up with the 2nd best record in the league. I think they're going to be probably the 4th seed in the West. That's what I bet on. That they're going to go over, if they're healthy, they're going over 46.5. No doubt. But in the playoffs, who wants to see them?
The case for them to be, let's just say top 4. Let's put it this way: 50 plus wins comfortably in the playoffs versus mid 40 wins fighting for your play in life. The case for them to do that is, you think they can reel off wins on a consistent fashion if they're missing 1 to 2 of the, and I'm going to call it the core 4 veterans. So, obviously Steph, Jimmy, Draymond, Horford. We all know how Steve Kerr's offense works. It's all about read and react movement. Honestly, probably more important to have good connectors than it is to have anything else in that offense, like high IQ players to play through, right? And this is the first time they've had a player who can literally do what Draymond does. So if Draymond's not there, you have someone who can play through him. It's the first time they've had a player who can run the offense through since Kevin Durant around Steph Curry. So the argument is not that they're going to reel off wins if they're missing Steph. The argument for me is they're not going to go like 1-10 when he sits. The argument for me is if Draymond misses 10 straight games, which will happen at some point in the season, Al Horford, if he's on the court, which, we could talk, but that's if you have Horford, you can go 7-3 instead of 3-7, or, and it's those little things, because I think we all agree if they're fully healthy, they'll reel off wins at a 50 game pace. The question with them is, are they going to, stay alive those 20 plus games Steph doesn't play, right? And that's best case scenario, right? So I think that's where I build the 50 plus win case. I don't know how much I buy it, but I can at least see the logical world where they hit 53 wins, 54 wins, and we're just like, man, I didn't see that coming, but they're so deep. They're not going to lose to the Kings if Steph sits. They're not going to lose to, the Suns if Jimmy's out, because they have so many smart players, well coached. They know their identity and they're going to play hard. They're not a team that no shows on a consistent basis, which like half the league does half the time.
Well, I think Steph is playing 65 plus games, which he has done for the past, I think 6-7 years. Go ahead, Jason.
I think the point that you're making about them winning at a roughly 50 win pace when Steph is healthy is something that I can get behind. But in order for them to win 56 games, they would need to win at roughly like a 58 win pace with Steph, and then also be able to hold the fort down when he misses, 10, 15 games. And so that's where it gets tough. Where I do actually agree with Tommy, or I shouldn't say I agree with you, Tommy, because I don't think they're the second best team in the league. But where I take them seriously as a championship contender is I've been texting Sam about this. Like you run into Golden State in a second round series and they happen to be healthy, and Steph's out there and he's playing near the top of his game, and Al's out there and he's moving well. Draymond's out there and he's not dealing with a bad back or anything, but he's mobile and he can do his thing. Jimmy's out there and he's getting his 25-5 or whatever. If those four dudes are out there, you start to look at them as a serious threat against basically everybody in the West. That Denver has consistently struggled with any sort of pull-up shooting threat that can drag Jokic out to the perimeter consistently and then get the pass out and make them play 4-on-3 on defense, right? We know that they struggle with that. OKC has struggled against high IQ defenses. For all the things about Denver's defenses over the year, they went to zone, they switched up coverages, they sagged off, they funneled Shea into help, and they were actually really good at guarding OKC because they were a high IQ defense. I'd argue Golden State is a better version of that high IQ defense with all of those dudes in the front court. So that pathway is there, but you're asking a bunch of dudes who are basically 37 or older to survive 4 playoff rounds. That's where some of that skepticism rises to the table. But I view them firmly in that tier. The thing that gets tricky is you go through the rest of that tier and all those teams can make similar cases. Minnesota, you go up against rim protection and an athlete that can make Ant work. They struggle to score the basketball. That's a real problem, but they're still one of the biggest, most physical ass-kicking defenses in the league. And they somehow find a way to physically overwhelm teams on offense getting to the rim, and they find a way to score, and all of a sudden they're in the Western Conference Finals seemingly every year, right? If Luka Doncic plays like an MVP and LeBron happens to be healthy, they're a team that could be dangerous at some point down the line. You look at the Clippers. What if Kawhi happens to regain that form? They present a lot of problems. To me, Golden State doesn't present any issue that elevates them above that group, if that makes sense.
I think there's a couple of things you said there, Jason. Number one, OKC struggles against high IQ defenses. Warriors have that. Better version of what Denver had.
Yeah.
Number two, what they struggle against is offenses that can move the ball and play with pace. And the Warriors aren't going to do that as much this year. They're older, they're slower. But in the half court, they can play with a lot of pace. They can move the ball, they can cut, they can screen, they can do whatever they want. So I'll ask you this. If Steph doesn't get injured in the semifinals last year, do the Warriors win that series against Minnesota?
I would have had it roughly a coin flip. I think it could have gone either way. I didn't view Golden State as a juggernaut. I mean, you guys saw them down the stretch of the season in a bunch of must-win games. They were basically 500, and then in the Rocket series, they took it to 7. So I'm not I'm not saying that they couldn't have won the series, but like it was, to me, it wasn't like any one team had a clear advantage going into that one healthy, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, not to get stuck on this, but I do think the 7 games has some context of like Jimmy gets injured in game 2, Steph has to go all out in game 3, and then he's dead in game 4. They lose game. Like there was context behind that. Fred VanVleet shoots 75% from 3 for 4 straight games or whatever it was. And because of that, it goes 7. But my point is, like, I think they would have beat Minnesota fairly easily, and then they would have given OKC all they could have handled in the Western Conference Finals.
I mean, the context for me is that Jimmy got hurt, then Steph got hurt, which is really, I'm going to be honest with you. I think the Warriors beat the Thunder if you can promise me they're fully healthy, but you can't promise me that. So that's a fundamental question. And I agree with Tommy. Like the Thunder struggle against teams who can move them side to side and have high IQ. There's like 3 of them in the league. So everyone struggles against them. It's tough. But end of the day, Warriors versus Thunder turns into a battle of attrition, physicality versus IQ. And yeah, I would take the Warriors to win that series if you could tell me they'll be healthy by the end of it. But you can't tell me they'll be healthy at the end of it. And the Thunder, the thing they have going for them is like those dudes are by far the best athletes in the league. Like those dudes will fight the entire way through. So like that's, to me, that's where the Warriors' real vulnerability and humanity comes into it. And also like, I'm kind of okay with it. That's just the reality of an older team. Like it's gonna take, I don't want to say luck, but like it's gonna take the right schedule and the mix of guys being physically right at the right time of the year. Cause like, do they go 7 against Houston if Amen doesn't undercut Jimmy? No, I think that's over in 5. Then Steph doesn't pull his hammy, and then in the Western Conference Finals. But does Jimmy like break his ass if he's 28 instead of 35? Probably not. I know that was like a freak contact injury, but like there is also just a reality to like the older you get, the more shit hurts every time you get hit. So
Yeah, sure.
it's like it goes both ways, and I don't view that as a negative thing. I just think that's the reality, and I think that's kind of the fun of this Warriors team. Like they're trying to beat the aging curve. Generally, that's hard to do. I want to get back to what Jason said earlier. You said you had the Warriors in the second tier of the West. I don't have a problem with that. I think that's where most people have them. I'm comfortable with that. I'm comfortable with them overachieving that. Who do you have actually in the first tier of the West? That's outside of the Thunder.
So for me, I actually have Denver as a very slight favorite to win the championship, with Oklahoma City as like the safer quote unquote bet. But if Denver's healthy when they meet them in a series, I think Denver's going to beat them. On the one hand, they have kind of like the perfect personnel matchup for them in that they're a high IQ defense that can scheme Oklahoma City into some rough offensive nights, and they have this like kind of foolproof method to enter their defense through Nikola Jokic, and they can consistently get great shots. I thought that their lack of depth really killed them in the OKC series last year. Towards the end, Michael Porter Jr. is completely beat to hell. Aaron Gordon's on a bad hammy. There's a certain amount of like just having Tim Hardaway Jr. and Bruce Brown and Cam Johnson. They're just going to be like more set up to survive throughout this season. And all the things that you guys are talking about, like, let's be clear. You want to know why, like every time there was a cool, hot Eastern Conference team that was doing great in the LeBron era, that all LeBron dudes were like, yeah, we're going to beat them. And that every Rockets team that came up that was like kicking ass all season, and you Warriors fans are like, yeah, cool, we're going to beat them when we get there. Because it's the older, veteran, experienced team that seems to know how to get the job done when you get to that stage, right? To me, Denver checks all those boxes this year. They are the only team in the West that is both championship talented from top to bottom and the experienced veteran team that's done it before and knows how to win chess matches over and over again in the playoffs. Once you get to that next tier in the West, they all kind of have a gaping flaw of some kind. Like the Lakers just don't have enough defensive personnel. I think just based in pure talent, Golden State has a little bit of a disadvantage after Steph compared to the other teams in the West. The Clippers, their stars are completely anemic when they get to that point in the season. You can go to Minnesota, like we talked about. as soon as they face a rim protector and a dude that can actually make Ant work, their offense falls to shit like every single year. So like Denver's the only team in that group that doesn't have that like glaring, gaping weakness that will undo them if the circumstances don't set up just right, if that makes sense.
I mean, Jamal Murray is pretty.
I'm high on Jamal Murray.
He's living very highly off the fact that the Lakers can't guard the point of attack. Otherwise, he's been very inconsistent in the playoffs.
Yeah, but here's the thing. For all of that talk, they were right there with Oklahoma City, and they were literally up 20 in Game 7 against Minnesota. So, like, for all of the talk about their flaws, and by the way, Jamal Murray was pretty bad in both of those playoff runs at times, but he was also great at other times in that postseason run. You want to know why they were up 20 in Game 7? Because Jamal had like 35 through 2.5 quarters. So, like, the part of the thing with Denver is they have a lot more overall offensive firepower alongside Jokic. It used to be Jamal and Jokic. Aaron Gordon started to kind of figure out how to shoot and score a little bit over the last couple of years. But now you add Tim Hardaway Jr. Bruce Brown is actually a better offensive fit with the team even than Russ. Cam Johnson, to me, is just a better basketball player than Michael Porter Jr. Let me just put it very simply. I think Jokic is the best player in the world. And this is the best roster he's ever played on. Like, I think this is better than the 2023 roster. They're deeper. They've got more ball handling. They've got a legitimate backup center that they can run against certain teams. They've got different looks that they can go to when Valanciunas is not an option. I just look at this as the best Denver roster since Jokic has been in his prime. And to me, I'm always going to bet on the best player in the world when he's got that type of roster.
I do agree with all that. But do you buy, like, okay, let's think about like 2015 Warriors coming off the championship, going to 2015-16. I feel like OKC might get a similar bump. So if we like count that in, do you think Denver is still beating them? If they have like not 73 wins, not any of that, but they're better. They're more confident. Jalen Williams goes to another level. Shea goes to another level. Chet goes to another level.
Chet's the big one.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. If Chet goes to another level, it's kind of over if Chet goes to another level, honestly. But if they go to another level, do you still buy that Denver is beating them?
No, I for the record, in my contender rankings, which I think is actually going out next week. I just recorded it a week ago, so I'm remembering it now. But in my contender rankings, I talk about how, like, I have Denver as a very slight favorite over Oklahoma City, but whether or not Oklahoma City gets the job done will specifically come down to the individual development of Shea, J-Dub, and Chet. And I include Shea in this because one of the interesting things about Oklahoma City, and this is a big part of why I'm not quite as high on them as everyone else is, they are, by the way, I have them as top tier championship contenders, so it's all relative. But there are a lot of people that are like, oh, OKC's running away with this thing this year, and I don't necessarily feel that way. A big part of it is, one, Oklahoma City, part of the reason why their record looks so ridiculous last year is they went 29-1 versus the East, okay? So versus the Western Conference, they were actually only 3 wins better than that Lakers team that had Fat Luka, injured AD, and 40-year-old LeBron. Like, the Oklahoma City Thunder were not some sort of juggernaut versus the Western Conference. When they got into the Western Conference, too, in the playoffs, they obviously had the one team out of the first round that was not a legitimate contender in Memphis. They beat them up, right? They struggle mightily with Denver, and then there's this specific matchup weakness with Minnesota that looked exactly like Derek Lively and Derek Jones Jr. 2 years prior with Dallas, right? Ant has an awful series. Shea badly outplays him. There's also weird game plan stuff there. Talk about IQ. They had Jaden McDaniels picking Shea up at half court when he has no chance in the world at keeping him in front that far away from the basket. It was like legitimately a stupid game plan from Chris Finch that like toasted them at the point of attack over and over again in that series. But if you zoom out from the playoff run, there was one really kind of bizarre stat that stood out to me. In their 7 losses, they had only a 103 offensive rating. Their offense like legitimately cratered in the games that they lost in the postseason. And if you watch those games, you know, Tommy, I actually disagree with your characterization of Shea earlier on in the show, because you talked about sometimes his aggression can like kind of fade. To me, it's the opposite. He has these games where he comes out and he just shoots every time. And when he comes out and he shoots every time like that, it kind of gets the team out of rhythm. And then he'll have these other games where he comes out and he plays a beautiful floor game and he's moving the ball around and guys get in rhythm. They start hitting shots. The team looks better on offense. By the way, in their wins, their offensive rating was like 120 something. So like they were awesome in their wins. But I think Shea needs to improve in his game to game floor game is like game management, helping run the offense. J-Dub, consistency. It was his 3-point shot that was off. When it started hitting in the postseason, he started going off. That was like a clear line there. And then Chet, just his overall offense, it has miles and miles to improve in every facet. So if those three guys make leaps, then yeah, they're going to beat Denver. But my thing is, like, a lot of people just expect them to run away with things. And I don't look at this as like a Kobe Shaq type of KD Steph, LeBron, Dwayne Wade type of, we're going to stack up chips because we're just way better and more experienced and we're vets. Like, that's not the way I see this team. I see this as a team that is vulnerable, that can be really bad on offense at times. And if they catch the right matchup, I absolutely think they can lose, even though I respect them.
Let's take this back, because the question I really wanted to ask you was, I don't have a problem with you saying the Thunder and Denver on paper entering the season are kind of a tier above the Warriors. My question is, more simply put, what do the Warriors need to do to get into that tier, in your opinion? What is the case for them to get there? What things need to happen for you to move them there? Because I think your opinion on them, like the ESPN thing, caught me out of left field, because I actually think most people's opinion matches more what you're saying, which is clear playoff team, potentially first round by like top 4 if everything breaks, but it kind of second tier relative to the defending champs and Denver, who are just younger.
So, I mean, I don't look at them as having the requisite talent to be a top tier contender. I know that that's probably where most Warriors fans will disagree with me, but like, you guys know I'm high on Steph. I had him at 6 in my player rankings. That's higher than most people have him right now. And the big stat that I was looking at with that when I gave Steph that ranking was last year, according to Cleaning the Glass, when he was on the floor, you guys had a 120 offensive rating, which is such an insane stat when you look at the types of players that he was playing with from a talent perspective. And like, yeah,
he's the best offensive player in the league still. I'm not even going to argue with you on that. It's just
of all time.
Yeah. I'm very high on him as an offensive player. I wouldn't say he's the best offensive player in the league, but I'm very high on him as an offensive player. I have him third on as an overall offensive engine behind Jokic and Luka right now. But
it's not true, but that's okay.
Yeah, I mean, that's fine. We can disagree.
So I'm very high on Steph. He's 37 years old. But the big difference is like you talked about, Tommy, like when he was younger, it was that type of advantage creation that broke defenses, plus a just consistent 28 to 30 points per game on 63, 65% true shooting. And now that's turned into, like, in the postseason, what was he at? Like in the games before he got hurt, like 24-ish points per game. Like, he just struggles to like maintain the scoring volume and efficiency that he used to. When he had that, I legitimately think he was a better offensive player than LeBron. I've talked about it. I think he's the second best offensive player I've ever seen. So like, I'm a big believer in that. I just think at this phase, the physical imposition of scoring massive volume and efficiency is harder for him. But looking at how they beat Oklahoma City, to me, in order to actually become like what I'd consider to be a top tier contender, I think that they'd have to execute some sort of deal where they flip Kuminga and possibly draft compensation for more talent, or Kuminga without draft compensation for a flawed talent. That's the two different options that they could go there, right? And if that trade hits, then maybe they have the requisite talent. But like, to me, just like any team in that second tier, they've got to thread the needle. So it's surviving physically over the course of the season, not putting yourself in a position where you have to beat, 3 awesome teams to get out of the Western Conference, like catching a favorable.
That's honestly, that's probably the biggest one for the Warriors, because like part of the 2022 championship was getting a favorable draw. So when you got into those dogfight series, you had your legs. Like, yeah. It's hard to have 4 7-game series at that age. You kind of need the, like, we're gonna wax this team in 4 to 5.
Yes and no, but like Nate Duncan had the Mavericks winning the 2022 Western Conference Finals. Like, we're retconning it now. Everybody thinks that run was easy, but it really wasn't. It wasn't as easy as people think. Anyway, I'm moving.
Yeah, but they ran into an injured Denver team in round 1, which was crucial because Steph had not played a regular season game entering it. So it's just like, it's little things. Like, the difference between that versus Houston last year is the difference between a long run versus short run sometimes.
Yeah, fair.
But
Or just like the odds are
think
more
they
in your
could
favor. The odds are more in
individually-
your favor if you're not having to extend guys 45 minutes in the first round. That's just that's not a young or old thing. That's just like a reality thing.
Another way to put it, Sam, is like if you ask me, like, can a healthy Warriors beat a healthy Minnesota? Yes, I think they can. Can a healthy Warriors beat a healthy Denver? Yes, I think they can. Can a healthy Warriors beat a healthy Oklahoma City? Yes, I think they can. And can a healthy Warriors beat a healthy Cleveland, New York, whoever it is that comes out of these? Yes, I think they can. Can they do all 4 in a row over the course of 2 months? That's where it becomes a bigger challenge. And for the record, guys, like, this is literally how it goes down every year. Like,
Yeah.
Oklahoma City broke people down. Like, Ja was out of the series. Aaron Gordon was limping around on the floor with a bad hammy. Like, you get into the finals and Tyrese Halliburton's breaking down. Like, literally, teams.
It was a war of
against that
attrition. They
athleticism.
won on just
Yeah.
physically attrition. The 2 series that they could have lost. No,
Yeah,
I don't disagree
right.
with any of that. So I think I agree with you. I think the thing I would add to it is the other young guys. Do they take a step this year? And I don't mean a star step, but like Podziemski in the second half of last year averaged 15, 4, and 6, shot 42% on threes. Is that the player we're going to get all of this year? Or is it going to be an up and down roller coaster? Moses Moody had a solid end to the season. Does he build on that, or is it more of the same? Those are important factors to determining whether this team is relying way too much on the old guys, or can the old guys coast in the regular season? Can Steph go a month of averaging 23 points per game on 15 shots? Maybe that's extreme, but like you get what I'm saying. Like, can they get through a regular season where he's kind of playing in like first gear and just setting back screens because these young guys are able to carry the load against some of the mid-tier teams in the regular season? Like, I think all of that ties into it, and it's to be determined. I like the way that they closed last year. I feel bullish on those guys growing, but like, to me, that's the bigger thing than the old guys, or maybe it's just intertwined with them. Does that make sense? Where it's like, if that doesn't happen, then we're getting into a situation where we need the old guys to play like they're 30 instead of 37. And then you're setting up a scenario where, the worst case happens.
Yeah, that's the funny thing is, like, with LeBron and Luka, I'm wondering what versions of them we're going to get. I'm not worried about the Warriors stars and like what they're going to be like when they're out there. It's the younger guys. Do you get the pods that was awesome for the last month of the season, or do you get the pods that struggled to make shots in the postseason? Moody, do you get the guy who's been just shooting the shit out of the ball in preseason, or the guy who couldn't make a shot to save his life in the playoffs? Like, those are going to be the major swing factors for you guys. If you get enough juice out of your young players, Sam, you've been talking about the idea of just mixing the IQ of the older guys with the young legs. If that formula works, you guys are in great shape.
Well, I mean, was last night discouraging in any way? Because they put out a lineup of like Kuminga, Pods, Post.
I'm not crashing out over October 8th versus the Blazers.
I'm not doing that. I'm not doing that either. It's preseason. Like, let's set some context here. But at the same time, it was like Kuminga has 2 backcourt turnovers. Pods has 1 too. It's like, can these guys handle the ball without Steph or Jimmy or Draymond being in? Like, it was kind of discouraging in that way. So I just, as much as I want to believe in Pods or Kuminga or whoever it is, I don't know, man. Like, it feels kind of fraught at this point to like believe in those guys as they can lead a bench unit at all.
Let's touch on that on the other side, guys. Got a bill to pay here, guys. You and I make decisions every day. Steve Kerr makes decisions such as playing all the old guys in the starting lineup or mixing and matching. But the cool thing is, on Prize Picks, being right can get you paid. Steve Kerr didn't get paid more or less deciding which starting lineup he gets. You making your decisions of who to put into your football lineup on Sunday can get you paid. Guys, Prize Picks is the only app that offers stacks, meaning you can pick the same player up to 3 times in the same lineup. Want to pick more on Josh Allen's passing yards, rush yards, and touchdowns? Now you can pick all of them in the same lineup. And I'm going to tell you right now, it's been working for me, specifically with Josh Allen. The app's really easy to use. Just create a lineup. All you have to do is pick more or less on a few player stats for your shots to win. Guys, it's really simple. Download the app today. Use code LightYears to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code LightYears. Get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks. It's good to be right. Also, guys, product that's near and dear to my heart and something I feel very strongly about. Nothing determines one's mood quite like the right pair of underwear. Let's be real. Look good, feel good. It's a thing. Yeah, I know I podcast better when I feel good about the way I look. My beard lined up right. Does my shirt fit right? Do I look good? All that sort of stuff. But if I'm going to be honest with you, nothing really determines my mood quite like underwear. Nothing determines if I'm upbeat in a good place, like if it fits right. Is it that right cross-section of flexibility but structure? And I've yet to find a pair of boxer briefs that fit like Skims. Guys, best pair of boxers I've had. Work day, sitting at the desk all day, or if I'm going to the gym, I'm working out, or I'm playing hoops or something like that. They work in every context. Guys, shop Skims Men's at skims.com. Let them know we sent you. After you place your order, select podcast in the survey and select our show in the drop-down menu. Guys, Skims Men's at skims.com. Select podcast, select our show. We appreciate every one of you. It's one of my near and dear rules to my heart. Gotta have good underwear. Gotta feel good about them. All right, we talked about the Portland game. Let's talk about it a little bit. I kind of want to get to it earlier, but we got sidetracked a little bit here. They went with the old guys starting lineup. My contention is, look, those guys are all veterans. They're all going to the Hall of Fame, whether it's first ballot or like later down the line. Like Al Horford's a Hall of Famer, Draymond's a Hall of Famer, Jimmy will get to the Hall of Fame. They're all legacy guys, so you have to give them an opportunity. But I genuinely think this team's best lineup is going to probably force one of those guys to the bench in like an Andre Iguodala capacity. I'm curious where your guys' head's at, and what do you think is the Warriors' best starting five entering the season?
Jason, go ahead.
So, there's a consistent thing that happens in the Western Conference, and it looks a lot like what you saw last night, which is you face some super talented, younger, athletic team that comes out and they're like really going for it. Mm-hmm. And like you see Horford just did not feel like banging with Klingon last night, and he was just getting sealed inside and giving up some easy stuff around the basket. And the overall mobility on the perimeter is a little slow in that lineup. I think the way that Sam phrased the question as starting lineup versus closing lineup is the key there, because I could absolutely see that being their best lineup for some specific situations, including a lot of different types of matchups. But I kind of like the idea of swapping a guy like Horford potentially out for younger legs so that you can come out with more consistent motor to start games. I think it's going to be easier for the older guys to get caught up in that momentum rather than being responsible for setting the tone every night. I think that's the one thing that they clearly weren't trying that hard, but they also looked slow. And that's what happens in the NBA regular season sometimes when you're the older team, is if you don't bring the juice, the young guys run all over you. And I think that could be a problem if they start with that group for long.
Oh, Tommy, taking to the mic here. We're not going to let that happen. This is running technical. All right. So, Jason, I want your opinion on this. Opening night, I think the odds are they just go with the legacy starters. I think it's the right thing to do. What do you think is going to be their most used starting lineup? When we look at the end of the year, when we look at runs, not closing lineup, what do you think it's going to be?
So I think the first look that he would go to would be Pods and Moody, the lineup from last year that performed so well. And I think that's the right thing to start with. When I was watching last night and I was watching some of the point of attack defense stuff, I did wonder if DeAnthony's really moving well, if he comes in like really moving well, if they end up looking at him as a guy to potentially start alongside Moody to improve their point of attack defense, just simply because that looked like something that was somewhat of a concern last night. But like, again, I think that they'll start Pods and Moody, and then DeAnthony would be the only other guy I'd consider there. I don't think I'd start Kuminga under any circumstances.
Yeah, I mean, assuming he's the same player once he's fully healthy, and that might not be until like mid-January or something. Like, I agree with you. He checks every box as like the ideal point of attack defender, good secondary ball handler, can really shoot the ball, just like a guy who is in every team's key lineups at any time. So I agree with you there. Of the young guys, which one do you think has the most pressure on them to take that next step? Not from the perspective of their own career goals, because like every one of them wants to. Which one do you think has the most pressure to take a step to essentially be a dude who this team can count on when we get to the end of the season?
Easily Pods, because I think the expectation for Moody is different. Like you guys, he hit a couple of crazy shots, like a contested shot clock 3 in the first game, and then he hit that one to start the second half of the first game where he came off of that wide screen up at the top of the key and just rose up and knocked down that movement 3. That's great and all, but that's not what you guys necessarily need from Moses. Like, you guys just want him guarding the ball and making good reads when he gets into open space and knocking down the open catch and shoot 3. If he does that, like, he's effectively replaced Wiggins and done his job, right? At least not 2022 Wiggins, but the other versions of Wiggins. If there is legitimate pressure on Brandon Podziemski to become like a shot creating guard. And, it was funny because I've seen you guys throwing out the Brunson comps, and like there are certain like visual similarities for sure in like the start-stop quick.
Let me clarify that real quick. He talks about how Brunson's a player he likes to study.
Gotcha.
And I understand it because he's a lefty who's never going to have an explosive first step. I do not expect him to be Jalen Brunson, but I do think it's like it tells you a lot about his mentality when you hear the players he studies. He's also mentioned Manu Ginobili. D'Lo's been mentioned in there. Self-awareness for a slow lefty.
For sure. And by the way, he's a much better player on the margins than a guy like Brunson. So like, you don't need him to be Jalen Brunson, but can he become a legitimate shot creating guard? And the big thing with me is his touch is just a little inconsistent. And that is the big one. Like, even on some of the stuff with his form, like, I feel like sometimes he's shooting an absolute rainbow, whereas sometimes he's shooting a flatter ball. I feel like there's just a little bit of like an inconsistency in approach from him that kind of leads to his streakiness. But again, he doesn't need to be a guy who's going to average 23. Can he get to a guy that averages like 18, 8, and 6? Like, that is a reasonable type of outcome for him. And that's kind of like the expectation. And it, in many ways, will determine the trajectory of the next couple of seasons. Because, like, if he becomes that guy, then you don't need to go get a Malik Monk or another scoring guard or a scoring forward or anything like that, because Pods is that guy. But there's legitimate pressure on Pods to pop.
No, I agree with you there, because they did not sign a backup point guard. I mean, Melton is a combo guard, but he is still kind of better as like a 2 who does secondary ball handling than a guy who's going to run your offense. It does feel like a lot of pressure is on Pods to take that next step to be the guy that if you have Pods and Melton out there, you can run a second unit through those guys. Seth Curry is another guy out there. Seth's a combo guard. I mean, he's one of the greatest shooters of all time. But again, that puts pressure on Pods. Like, can you create offense? Because to your point, where he's had success is being that secondary guy, the secondary ball handler. And where he struggled is when it's like, all right, Pods, we need you out there really initiating the offense the entire time. It's been up and down. Yeah, I mean, I kind of agree with you that he has the most pressure, or he's going to be the biggest determinant on if they have the internal improvements to take a step. The second one is what we talked about earlier, which is Kuminga. They signed him to a contract that clearly they're trying to trade in January, that both sides would like a trade for. My question for you is, give me a player comp, not like realistic, like you think they can acquire him or something, a level of player that you think if they flipped him for that type of player, you'd feel confident that this team now has a new wrinkle, a new ingredient to take themselves to another level.
So it would be, oh man, this is a good question, because like I can't get this image out of my head from the rewatch that we did from 2022 from Game 4,
Sure.
and I ended up watching a couple of games from that series. And like you guys really just gave the ball to Jordan in your backup units, and like he would just play 2-man game at the top of the key, and like it was the definition of like let Jordan be Jordan, because he would take some crazy shots during that time as well, but he was able to score the basketball. And like in both of the pivotal games of the series, in Game 4 and in Game 6, where things really swung, he was awesome in his first shift coming in off the bench scoring the basketball. And so like the reason why I was kind of drawn to a player like Malik Monk, and I'm not over here arguing necessarily that he's the perfect fit. It was just a situation where you could get him and a first round pick, which is what I think the main disagreement between me and many Warriors fans is just Kuminga's value overall and what you could theoretically get back for him. But I looked at Malik as the kind of guy where when Steph's off the floor, he can stare down a good defender and beat him off the dribble. Like he can bring some real downhill force and some real scoring pop. And you guys know how it goes. That can win games. Before it was Jordan Poole, and obviously Steph KD was different. But before that, it was Sean Livingston and Leandro Barbosa. Those guys came in and they got buckets. They came in and they scored the basketball. And then, the defensive culture was strong enough to hold those units up defensively. And so if it's not Malik, it would just be someone that you can legitimately give the ball to and they can score. Like Jimmy is a good playmaker, but I think the scoring can ebb and flow sometimes. These teams have firepower. You go around the league, these teams have firepower. You have someone you can give the ball to and they're going to score the basketball when their best player's off the floor. And so it'd be someone of that ilk. And I'm actually less concerned about it being a specific position group as I am about it being a athlete that can pressure the rim. Like if it in conjunction with real scoring ability.
See, I was thinking about it through the name that's been thrown out is Trey Murphy, and that's a total like pie in the sky. But like a two-way wing who can fit in an offense and actually guard the point of attack. Andrew Wiggins for the Warriors in 2022 is like the dream version of that. Honestly, that's probably what they thought they were getting with Kuminga, and it just hasn't happened to date. But I still keep going to that one, which is I think the offense can work well enough. But I would like to get one more like high level athlete, the type of guy who can like physically hang with an OKC, type of guy who's got more length to play against a Denver, and kind of the matchups you get into the playoffs. Someone in the chat's going to Tomani Kamara. Like, a player like that sounds like the ideal version of what you want to complete this roster more so than offensive playmaking to me. Tommy, you're shaking your head.
No, it's not about that. Just never try to podcast from a Vegas casino. This is ridiculous. Anyway,
having fun though, dude.
No, honestly, no. I'm so ready to be out of this goddamn city.
You do have some fear and loathing faces going on, where it's just one too many nights in Vegas.
100%. But the guy I have on my mind is Quentin Grimes. If we're talking about guys that like the Warriors can add, it seems like that was the conversation.
I don't hate that idea.
Like he's
let's kind of split the difference.
He's what 8.8 million this year. He's obviously on, the qualifying offer. And Joe Lacob will never do it because he's an unrestricted free agent next year, and he might have to give up a pick. But if I'm looking
can't
at
do
like
that.
somebody
It's in the CBA.
Yeah, no, you can't. Absolutely not. But if I'm looking at a guy that like can actually make a difference for this team, who's not going to like cost a fortune, I do think it's Quentin Grimes. Like in general, I think he's incredibly underrated. Like a legitimate movement shooter with real shot creation chops, like can get it off the bounce. Like I said, can do it off movement and is not a bad defender. Like good base, super quick laterally, good wingspan, and he's not Klay Thompson. Like, I'm not saying he is, but he has like a lot of those same traits with honestly a little bit more like off the bounce creation.
I don't hate that idea. I think Quentin can play. I think he kind of fits like I would say that, like, compared to the Malik Monk archetype, he's a sturdier athlete defender. I think that's a big piece. Like, he's actually got some reps in playoff series, like as the primary point of attack guy, like the guy you're sticking on the opposing best star. The one thing with Quentin for me is he doesn't quite have like the wiggle that Jordan Poole had, like the like really breaking people down off the dribble type of part to his game. And so I think it's just a different type of player than the kind of guy I'm talking about. But I think that he brings enough athletically as a two-way guy that I would still really like the fit, and I would feel better about the Warriors if they pulled that off.
I mean, but Poole has like elite wiggle. We're talking about like top 10 wiggle in the league, you know? So like
Poole plays basketball like he learned it from TikTok. It's my favorite thing because like
Poole
the
plays
highlights
basketball like he
just,
has an AirPod in. Like he really does.
Bro,
but he's so talented.
You see an edit of Jordan Poole that's slowed down. I'm just like, this is the best player I've ever seen of all time.
Dude, the buckets he was getting in the finals were some tough buckets, man.
Absurd.
It I left that I left that rewatch and I was talking with Jackson and I texted him. I was like, dude, if Draymond didn't hit him, would he still be on the team? And he's like, yeah, he would. You know what's crazy?
I don't know if I agree with that.
I don't know if I agree with that they loved him in Washington. That he was like actually like a sneaky good leader, and that like he was a lot more mature than his reputation would lead you to believe, and that the staff
at minimum they would have done better than Chris Paul and giving up a pick. I'll put
it
hey, I'm not talking about that tonight. I'm not going down that road.
So let's talk philosophically about a guy like Monk, though, just as an idea, because obviously that deal's dead and certainly not going to happen anytime soon. But
it might not be dead.
One of my major takeaways from your guys' first round series with him, the one that went 7, one of my major takeaways was like Malik can get by his defender, like Malik can get by his dude, and like that's such a we always see these like playoff possessions where it just looks like basketball's hard and dudes can't get open. And all of a sudden you're late in the clock and someone's throwing up a bad shot. Like having a dude that can stare down a good athlete and beat him off the dribble is like a real asset. It's a real asset. And like, I can't remember the exact numbers off the top of my head because it's been so long since I looked, but I think he averaged like 19 points per game on like 59 or 60% true shooting against you guys. And that was a younger, quicker Golden State perimeter defense. And so like, I'm not even saying Malik per se, but that type of guy to me is what I look at as like, okay, Steph stepped off the floor for the last 3 minutes or the first 3 minutes of the second quarter or the first 3 minutes of the fourth quarter in a big playoff game. Can this dude run 2-man game with Jimmy and generate great shots? And like that's kind of the type of player that I'd be looking for, like a real like professional scorer of the basketball.
Well, I will say this. I'm almost 100% positive Malik Monk and a pick will be there in January.
That's true.
If that's the way they want to go for it. And like the difference between doing it in the summer and doing it in January is Moses Moody. You'd have had to give up Moody or Buddy in the summer. In January, it's a straight swap. Just from that perspective, it's more interesting.
Mm-hmm.
The point I keep coming back to is, to me, that's a nice to have. And don't get me wrong, I'm going to get frustrated watching the Warriors when, like, you know, Steph's feeling tired and, you know, Draymond smells like Bengay and like no one's really trying. And I'm like, can someone just get a fucking shot without 40 screens and passes? Like, I'm not saying you're wrong on that. I still go to this point where the thing that this team is missing is 2022 Andrew Wiggins, or, you know, what Aaron Gordon provides Denver, like that, you know, Steve tries to make Kuminga this when he compares him to Sean Marion all the time. Like, we need you to play that way. But like that wing who plays off ball, but like they just use their athleticism to impact the game 50 different ways. Like, I feel like that is still the bigger need. Now, I don't know if that's going to be there. Those guys are hard to find. And usually when you have one, you don't want to give them up. But to me, I'd still ride with Steph and Jimmy carrying the offense and just like grind it out, like grindcore basketball, whatever you call it. But I want more athleticism and size on defense than adding a guy who can get their own shot.
I mean, to branch off of Sam's point, I think adding a guy like Malik is like futile in a way. because at Steph's age and his size, like we can talk about the weaknesses. If you build a team around LeBron, it's like you need spacers. You need a lot of guys who can provide space for him, and that comes with like downsides, defensive downsides. With Steph, you can put guys who really
Dalton Connect not doing it for you?
I've never been on Dalton.
Unfortunately, no.
I've never.
No,
been
but
on
I get your point. You end up with a lot of these guys that are like, well, they can shoot it, but what else do they do?
Yeah, but with Steph, you can put guys around him who like can really defend, but they don't necessarily have a lot of offensive skill. And I think as Steph gets older, you reach a point where like Malik Monk and Steph isn't really workable. And if you're like putting money into Malik Monk, you can't play them together in a playoff series for more than 8 minutes a game. So I think I do agree with Sam. Like you need the better version of Kuminga, whatever that is. I don't know who it is. I don't know who in the league that is. But that's what they need more than like the scoring guard.
It's going to be getting Wiggins.
Both kind of players would help the team. To be clear, like to Sam's point, if you're able to make the deal around the deadline and you get Monk back for essentially a player that you're not using much in Kuminga, like that's a value add, even if it's less than you guys think. And then the type of player you're talking about, whether it's Quentin Grimes or an athletic forward, I also agree that would help the team. The last thing I'll say about it is if you look back, in 2022, when you won, you had that guy. It was Jordan Poole.
Yeah.
And that's what he did when Steph was off the floor. And when you won in 2018, you had that guy. It was Kevin Durant. And when you won in 2017, you had that guy. It was Kevin Durant. And 2015, obviously, is the exception to that rule. But you go back then, it was kind of by committee with Barbosa and Livingston. And then also that was
Clay.
Or Clay. Yeah, like it was a different Warriors team fundamentally. But the point is like I'm not disagreeing with. Ideally, you'd have both, right? Ideally, you'd have both.
Right.
Like that's the trickier situation. But like, yeah, I think everybody in the league could use one of those guys too. Like, you don't think the Lakers want Andrew Wiggins? Like, the point is everyone can benefit from that sort of thing. But I still look at this as a team in Golden State that does not have the offensive firepower that some of the upper contenders in the league have. And that's as a guy who believes in Steph as an offensive engine. I just think it's a lot to ask him to carry that. Do you guys remember what 2023 looked like? It turned into Steph pick and roll every time down the floor. And it just is a lot to ask. And he was amazing that entire series. But he, like at the end of the game when he's trying to score on switches against AD and he didn't get bought an extra 3 to 6 minutes.
Yeah, but it's Jimmy. It's Jimmy. It's not Wiggins.
Yeah, I was gonna say
it's way different.
I feel like the thing that we're not acknowledging is like at some point Jimmy has to be that guy. You're paying him $50 fucking million a year. you're expecting him to give you 20 plus a game, and I think it's more realistic for Jimmy to be a second option offensively than it is for Jimmy to be that do-it-all point of attack defensive wing defensively at this stage of his career. I think it's more realistic for him to do what he did before his ass exploded or whatever you'll call the injury than it is for him to be 2017 Klay Thompson hounding the other team's best offensive player for 40 minutes or quite frankly what Andrew Wiggins did in 2022, which was, he averaged, I want to say 16 or 17 points in the playoffs. Like he had some big games, but he was mostly a mid-teen scorer, but you felt his impact in every other aspect of the game. Like
he was such a monster rebounder in that playoff run. Oh my God.
Man.
Yeah, that's the part I always forget about the game 4 in Boston. Like obviously that's Steph's like golden game, like walk into the Garden and kind of take their hearts. But like Wiggins had 15 rebounds in that game?
I think he's 17 and 16. It was 17 and 16.
Yeah.
17 points, 16 rebounds.
Damn near 2020. Yeah,
Dude,
you ever watch
he decided to care.
Gave Steve his dream Sean Marion performance, right?
But I think what you're saying, Sam, is right. People forget what Jimmy was in game 82 and in the play-in game. He was maybe their best player. And like obviously none of that happens without Steph. But he was insane. In the play-in game, I think he had 38, 7, and 6. Against the Clippers, he was clearly the best player on the floor until the last 5 minutes of the game when Kawhi went off. So like I will trust that, as Sam is saying, I'll trust like that shot creation next to Steph. than
Or
like
you just don't have a
getting a Malik
choice,
Monk.
quite
Yeah,
frankly.
Yeah,
Well, but we're
exactly.
talking about like guys. We already talked about it though. Like we all agree that when they're healthy, they're capable of beating anybody. But like that, you're threading a very narrow. You're trying to. The whole point of this conversation is improving your margin for error, right? So like, if the team is all healthy, what would you benefit more from? If everyone's healthy, would you benefit more from a guy who could provide more scoring pop and bench units, or a guy that could, potentially?
Well, let's put in Warriors terms. Would you benefit more from 2022 Jordan Poole or 2022 Andrew Wiggins? Right?
Ooh, that's a really good question.
That's kind of what we're debating here. Like, do you trust Jimmy to give you enough offense that you want the defensive wing, or do you think they're good enough defensively that you want the guy with a little more like offensive juice?
Let me spit it right back at you like this, though. Is Moody right now closer to 2022 Wiggins, or is Pods right now closer to 2022 Jordan Poole? Because like that's the thing, is like if you go for one direction or the other, in theory, you've got this replacement level player. So like, can Moody provide a rough approximation this season of what Andrew Wiggins did? Not 100%, but like 75%. And then you have the bucket getter. Versus if you go get the better version of Wiggins, that marginalizes Moody, and now you are leaning heavily on Pods.
I bet on Pods over Moody. I bet on Pods.
The reason I refuse to answer that question is you just don't have Jimmy Butler in that scenario, and like at some point, like what is he getting $52 million a year for?
This is fair. This is
so
fair. I'm talking.
I'm
about
betting.
I
don't think he's like. No one's ever going to put up the Jimmy Butler like saucy off the dribble move highlight reel. Like he is fun in different ways, but you get what I'm saying. Like he
plays basketball like a JUCO player. Jimmy plays like a JUCO player. A bunch of jump stops, pump fakes, drawing fouls, like the tweener who's not really that athletic. Like that's what Jimmy is.
He was in his foul drawing bag last night.
He does it so effectively that it doesn't matter at the end of the day. But
multiple lower back injuries throughout the course of the year.
Correct.
Because of too many pump fakes. Yeah.
I think the bigger thing is like Jason is saying, like, if we get the Malik Monk, the Jordan Poole type, I think that's a floor raising thing. In my opinion, like you're raising the floor.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. Because I know you probably feel the opposite way. I think that is a floor raising thing for this specific team because they have Jimmy. I think if they get the defensive wing, because right now they don't have that. Like, I'm not going to bet on Moody at this point to become like a real point of attack defender at the level of like even close to Andrew Wiggins. So I think the kind of OG Anunoby, like a tier down from that, obviously, that type of guy is going to raise their ceiling more. Because again, if you put that type of defense around Steph, Draymond, Jimmy, Al Horford, I'll bet on them against anybody. So
I also think you're cooked. I think you're cooked if Jimmy can't be Jimmy. So
exactly.
Looking at what it's reasonable for Jimmy to be this year, it's to be that secondary offensive option when the games matter, which is to say, like, they need to address the athleticism. They really do need one other player. They need the player they thought Kuminga was going to be by year 4. That's what they need, or the player that they thought Moses Moody was going to be by year 5. Neither of them are that guy. Not to say they can't help the team, but neither of those guys are the pencil them in for 30 minutes in a key playoff game player.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, like a dependable, like we played 16 playoff games and he played 32 minutes a night. Yeah, like to your point, that's what 2022 Wiggins was. He was just this rock solid. He was a rock solid starting two-way wing. Yeah, like I'm with you on that. You're making a good case. I don't like. Here's the thing: it's all about what's available too. Like you get to February and the scoring guard's available, but the athletic forward is not. Let me frame it to you like that: you get to February, Steph's healthy, Jimmy's healthy, Draymond's healthy. You've seen enough to believe in the ceiling. The athletic forward option doesn't materialize, but the scoring guard does. Do you take it for margin of error?
Who's the scoring guard? Is it Malik Monk or Quentin Grimes?
Okay, let's use Malik Monk as the perfect example. So nothing else materializes. You can't do business with somebody that's not selling. There is no athleticism upgrade that's available that makes sense for the asset return. The Kings trade is still there. You get Monk back. Kuminga is still marginalized through the first 50 games. Still looks like it doesn't really make sense when everyone's healthy. Do you take the deal for margin for error? Or do you just say, screw it, let's just run it with this group and see what happens?
So it's Monk plus a pick.
You'd be getting
let's assume it's the offer you got in the summer.
Yeah, I'm taking that. Absolutely. If Kuminga doesn't improve, no doubt I'm taking that.
Okay, so then I think we're in agreement there, at least, where it's like, at the very least, it improves your margin for error and you have to consider it as an option. But if a two-way athlete, rock solid, starting caliber, 30-minute a game playoff guy comes available, you prefer that if it comes available. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, the real question is, what if a guy who's like a little worse than that, but is close to that comes available? But I guess we got to wait and see on this stuff. Like, a lot of these options are going to come to the table depending on where they're at the trade deadline.
So you're talking about Kamara.
Plus, obviously they're going to get Giannis. So,
well,
God.
yeah, exactly. Right. Hey, that's what the Monk trade's for. It's another pick to throw at Giannis. The other way of looking at it too is like, would an athletic wing that doesn't necessarily have a ton of experience be able to play read and react Golden State basketball right away? So like take a guy like Kamara, for example, like awesome point of attack defender, freaky athlete, jumper looks good, looks like he's progressing, but like, is he going to be able to make reads in the 4-on-3 right away at a playoff level?
It depends on the guy, right? Like, Jason, you know this, like, there's certain guys you play with when you go play open gym, they just know how to play.
Mm-hmm.
I think Kamara is one of those guys, but if it's another athletic wing, I don't know. Like, the same way
Mathurin?
that, like,
yeah, Mathurin's the guy that, like, I don't know that Mathurin to me would be too feast or famine, I think, but he's an interesting option. What if Mathurin? Okay, let's say Mathurin's the only dude available at the deadline, but it's a similar package where like the Pacers are getting off of him. We're gonna throw in a protected first, but we'll take Kuminga because we're looking for a talent play because we're bridging to a new era. What do you think? Would you take a guy like Mathurin?
It would be Mathurin plus Wiseman for Kuminga.
bring him home. Bring him home, baby.
Back together.
I mean, like, the thing is, I kind of like Mathurin. I really do. I think he just has more skill than Kuminga, and he's like the same archetype. But I wouldn't love it.
Steve's going to play him the same way. I mean, Rick Carlisle played him the same way, like more or less the same way that Steve played Kuminga, which was when he's locked in and kind of helping the team, he's getting 28 minutes. And when he goes out in the court and he's kind of floating, it's a nice 6-minute game. So I don't know. It's tough, but like a lot of these options kind of self-present themselves also by how the Warriors get through the first 2 months.
Great point.
And I think that's the biggest thing for this team. Like, do they get off to a good start? Are we talking about a team who's 25-15 in January? Or are we talking about a team who's 18-22?
Yeah. Or does like Horford get hurt and suddenly you're looking for a big, there's so many different ways that could go depending on, on how the season actually goes. To your point, you're like, we just have no idea what things are going to look like in February, both in the league landscape and with your own team.
We'll see. Jason, I appreciate you.
Muted. You're muted, Tommy.
I appreciate you. You've taken more time here. I think we should get out on this point.
It was good to see you guys.
We probably should.
And I'm excited too, Sam. We're a week and a half away.
We are a week and a half away.
How is it that close?
I don't know, man. I'm excited though. I'm frustrated that LeBron's not going to play.
Before we get out of here, I want you to give us one bold take. One bold Warriors-related take.
Warriors-related take. Oh, man. Okay.
Probably should have told you this before I put you on the spot.
No, this is a good question. I think Steph is going to be awesome to start this year. Like awesome. Like 28, 27, 28 points a game, mid-60s true shooting. Like, regardless of whatever flaw this roster might have, this is the best team he's had in years. And I think that I just bet on these dudes, the LeBron, the Steph, those two dudes are just the two greatest competitors of this era. And whatever the potential ceiling for this group is, Steph's going to try like hell to find it. And so I think we're going to get a bought in, engaged, awesome version of Steph to start the year. And I wouldn't be surprised if like 25 games into the season, he's like legitimately in first team all NBA conversation.
I like it. That's a
love
positive
it.
note to add on. Appreciate you, man. Hopefully the move is going well. How moved in are you at this point? How many boxes we got?
The studio is like the only thing that's not finished, but like
nice.
one of the things that helped, my wife and I have joked we should have moved to a less cool city because like everyone wants to come visit us in Denver. We should have gone to like Boise or something. So like it'd be like 2 flights and like it just nowhere near the nightlife. No one would, but like we've had people visit us like nonstop since we got up here, which was good because it was a big kick in the ass for us to finish unpacking like and getting furniture set up and stuff like that. But my studio has come to the back burner as a result of that. So now I've got to spend the next few days. I've got the same black shelving units that I had at my old place that I got to assemble and then putting the stuff on the shelves. But other than that, like we're pretty much in. So like, yeah, we got it done this summer. My goal was to have it completely done by the start of the season. And it looks like we're going to make that happen. So I'm excited. And dude, I'm going to ski my ass off this winter.
It's a great city. Denver is an incredible city.
What is the drive time to like a resort for you? Is it 2 hours, 1 hour?
So where I'm at in Littleton, it's on a busy summer day, I got from Breckenridge to my door in an hour and 22 minutes.
Oh,
so
yeah, you can legitimately go ski and be home to watch the games. You can just make it determined. My Tuesday, I'm going to go ski and I'm going to be back before Eastern Conference games started. I guess you're 1 hour ahead, so like 5 p.m.
Yeah, dude. And like there's a couple like Keystone's on the Epic Pass. They're an hour and 12 minutes door to door. Like I just don't like that mountain as much, but they've got some new terrain that I want to explore this year. But anyway, yeah. So like that's the idea is day trips, lots and lots of day trips.
It's nice. Well, I appreciate you, man. Good luck with the rest of the move.
It was good to see you guys. We'll have to do this again.